So before I even jump into today's discussion, I need to make a few notes before you even click off halfway through, because I can see when you guys click off, when the listening rate. I can see it. First thing I want to preface by saying is that this idea of how to get a girlfriend came about whenever I was still active on Hinge. I'm no longer active on Hinge. But one of the prompts that I had, if you're not familiar with Hinge, you can choose prompts to kind of get the conversation going. One of them was something about choose one of these three things, or for a tip about, and then I had how to keep a plant alive, good book recommendations, and then the last one was how to get a girlfriend. I thought that was fitting because I was just exhausted of seeing these terrible profiles, and I'm like, there's no chance you're ever sorry, this is going to be pretty mean and brutal, but there's just no chance that you're ever actually going to get even a hookup out of the profile that you have on this app. So I thought it fit to surrender myself as a public servant and help a guy out, because at the end of the day, men need our help, and I just wish they would ask for it. So I put the help on a silver platter, and I got many responses. I mean, there were people who were like, no offense, I just kind of want your opinion on I kind of just want this advice. And I was like, fair enough. I'm here to help. I'm wishing you the best of luck, because all I want in this world is for everyone to be happy. Ever since I put that on my Hinge profile, it got me thinking, along with the fact that over 50 or almost 50% of my listeners are men, which not sure how to digest that information. I feel like this might be helpful. Now, my intentions for this podcast was never to have almost 50% of my listeners be men. I thought it was going to be 2%. I'm not quite sure what happened there, how that came about. I don't know if I'm happy or mad about it, but I'm just, I'm glad you're here. And so I thought, if they're already here, I might as well just help them out. Give them a few tips. Now, another note I want to make, another preface, another statement, is that this is just my perspective. This is just how I see fit for a guy to get a girl. You can also listen to How to Get the Girl by Taylor Swift. That's also very helpful. This is kind of just an expanded version of that song. And there's a few more details. It's a little bit more updated in terms of pop culture. So if there's one thing about me, it's that I'm going to love to mansplain things, especially to men, and also give unsolicited advice. So I thought I'd just combine those two together and create today's episode of How to Get a Girlfriend. So we're going to break this down into a couple of steps here. If you're going to go the online dating route, here's what you need to do. This is probably the more popular option, I would say. This goes for, well, let's break down the profiles just in general first. First, we have Tinder, which arguably has been used primarily for hookups. If you want to actually get a girlfriend, I wouldn't go on Tinder. Then you have Hinge, which some people definitely still use, kind of like Tinder, but it's more I'm open to the fact of getting a girlfriend. I'm on the fence. But then there's also the group of men that are yeah, I do actually really want to find a girlfriend. I want to go on dates and get to know someone instead of strictly going for the home run. And then there's Bumble, which is kind of everyone's last resort if nothing's working out. And then you have Grindr, which I'm pretty sure is taken over by the gays, rightfully so. They need something in their lives too. And Then you have like the paid ones that I'm not really familiar with, like the ones that you actually like pay for. I mean, there's like Hinge Premium, but like I'm talking more of like Christian Mingle and like stuff like that. That I don't even want to touch on. That's not my field. So if you're gonna go on the online dating route, we're not talking about Tinder, okay? Tinder's exiled from this episode because if you're trying to actually get a girlfriend, stay the fuck away from Tinder. So when you're creating your profile, put at least 2 pictures of your face, in your profile. Now, this doesn't mean a group photo. This means a picture of yourself. Now, if you don't have any pictures of yourself, let's reevaluate that first and foremost. Why don't you have pictures of yourself? Are you insecure? Or do you just feel uncomfortable having attention on you? Let's unpack that. And after we're done with that, get 2 photos of your face. Then also you want to have one with you and your friends. Unless they're all hotter than you, maybe don't. This is very important. Don't put the first picture on your profile a group picture, or at least like the first 4 photos is a group picture. We're going to be spending, I'm immediately swiping left. I don't want that. I don't want to do digging. I want to see you as you are first picture. Now, if you're a little iffy about that, you could do a group photo and then second photo is of you. I don't care what it is, but actually I do care what it is. Maybe stray away from a selfie. Those make us a little uncomfortable, or at least me personally. Same with like mirror selfies. They just kind of like, in terms of like also posing, they kind of come off a little douchey. So maybe stray away from those. I don't know. It could be like you at the beach or you at a wedding. I don't know. Those are always a guy's go-to, is a wedding. Because you're looking dapper, and I don't know. I don't know why guys actually resort to them, but that's kind of my assumption. So those are always kind of good, solid photo ops. Definitely try and stray away from putting the group photo first, especially if it's a two person, you and your friend, and deep down you don't want to admit it, but you know that your friend is hotter than you. For the love of God, do not put that first. Because we're going to get confused, and we're going to hope that your friend is the person that's the profile, and we're going to be real disappointed whenever the next picture is he's not in it and it's just you. And yeah, that does sound mean, but that's just the reality. I mean, men have been just a lot worse and have said a lot worse things. So take that, digest it, chew it up, swallow it, digest it, shit it out, and then come back to me. Another little tidbit that you could add in, maybe show a side of you that's like a little softer, where you're not trying to put on this persona that's like, hey, I'm tough and I'm a dude and I have toxic masculinity built into my veins. That could involve something of the sorts of you with a puppy, you with a cat, you with a baby. Something that shows us that you actually care about other things and have like a nurturing side to yourself. Bonus points if you actually own the cat or own the dog, not the baby. We don't, 9 times out of 10, don't want you to own the baby, just the cat or the dog. The baby could be something else, not yours. Next, for the prompts on Hinge, you can do a voice prompt, like answering something. Please stop using them. I can't even tell you, like, it like makes me curl up in a ball and like shrivel and I feel like a wet rag that has been in a ball for a week and it's really stinky. That's what Hinge voice prompts do to me. Now, here's the exceptions. If you're funny, like actually funny, and if you have an accent. Because other than that, like, I don't think I'm going to want to hear it. Like, only a very, very small group of men can get away and probably girls too, I don't really know, can get away with the voice prompts. Next, be serious, but not like too serious, where it's just like you're applying for a corporate job. You know, you want to have like a little bit of fun with it, but you also like don't want to like not fill things out. Unless you are just like too serious, then I don't know how to help you there. Like if you're just generally too serious of a person, it's kind of a lost cause. I don't know, just like take a Xanax or something, or like take a shot of tequila, just like do something to like relax yourself. So that's kind of it for the online dating profile. In terms of like building your profile, and then after, once you're like starting to match with girls, you kind of like, I encourage messaging her first. I know that's like, oh, like I want her to message me first, blah, blah, blah. We always have to do it first. I get it. But like, if you really are attracted to this girl and you really like her profile and her qualities and like her personality is showing through her profile, message her first. Like, showing that you like actually actively want her is attractive, but don't be too creepy about it. If she never responds, don't double text her again and be weird about it. That's so weird. I've had guys do that where I like will message them, but then I'm like, you know, the vibes aren't vibing, and we just like, I just don't answer because it's just like I'm getting like creep vibes, and he'll like message me and message me and message me, and I'm like, get away from me, please. So don't do that. That's not how you get a girlfriend. That's how you get a restraining order. Now, if you're going to go the traditional route of dating, just meeting people through mutual friends or blind dating, etc., let's take the mentality of like 1980s in terms of dating. Forget everything else about it, you know, the in terms of like gender equality and all of that stuff. Take that out of your head, but keep the chivalry. That's what you need to do. When you start to actually do the dating, when you start to go on dates. This is post, like, the conversation on Hinge is going well, and you make it to the first date, or you just, you know, go balls deep. First date, you don't even have any pre-existing talking. You're just going right into it. Be a gentleman. There is a pay gap, so pay for the first date. Also let her talk. Ask her about, you know, her hobbies. Ask her kind of what she's passionate about, because there's nothing more attractive than having someone talk about something that they're passionate about. Now, if you already have pre-existing conversations from, you know, Hinge or just whatever it may be, make sure you like remember the things that she told you, because then you can be like, oh, like you told me you were doing this, you know, this past weekend. Like, how was that? Just things like to let her know that you were actually paying attention instead of just having a conversation. Because whenever like you remember small details, that's what's going to stick with us and kind of make us realize that, like, hey, they actually were paying attention and they weren't just like, you know, waiting for me to be done talking so like we can talk about him, you know? Are we following? Do I need to slow it down? Or are we doing good? What are we doing? Good? Okay, great. Then you could pay for the second date. I don't know. Maybe then she like offers to pay like her side, or, you know, the whole thing, little shebang. But personally, I find it like attractive whenever a guy like insists on paying, but like I'll still offer it. I don't know. There's just something like, you know, so traditional about that. And I'm not a very traditional person. But that's up in the air. That's not really like a determination of like how to get a girlfriend, but it's kind of just like a nice thing to do, you know? Again, when you're on these dates and whenever it's post date, chivalry. I mean, what happened to fighting to death for a woman? What happened to getting on a horse and fighting another man for a woman? What happened to that? I mean, I can't even get a guy to open up a door for me. That's not true. I do, but you know what I mean. Like, what happened to just the utmost gentlemanliness? Because now all we really have is ghosting and like bare minimum. I recently watched this video of a woman who was talking about, or like the interviewer was saying something about how are you still single? You know, I don't know how old she was, but she was gorgeous. And she was talking about how, like, within the last however many years or decades or whatever, women have kind of raised their standards for the better because we're starting to realize that we deserve better and we deserve more. And men kind of have just been like getting away with doing the bare minimum. And it's unfortunate when men just assume that we're just being like picky or we're being unrealistic. We're not. You've just been like able to get away with the bare minimum for so long, and we're not putting up with it anymore because we understand more of like our worth, and we are kind of becoming more comfortable with not settling. Yeah, it's just important to like do your research, you know? Don't be afraid to like, if you have like a girl friend, ask her kind of like her opinion on this. And if you have a sister, ask your sister. Ask your mom. I don't know. But just like, don't be afraid to kind of be vulnerable about it, because there's nothing worse than a man who is like too concerned about his like masculinity. There's nothing more unattractive than like fragile masculinity, where it's like if he wouldn't be caught dead using face wash or like doing a face mask, or I don't know, like the whole quote unquote simp thing pisses me off, because it's like, why was it used in such a negative connotation when in reality that's just kind of how it should, like, not should be, but there's nothing bad about being quote unquote down bad for a girl. Like, that's just you actually having a crush. That's not you losing any kind of masculinity you once had. You're still the same. And it's actually encouraged. And we kind of love it. Personally, I honestly, like, even all jokes aside, out of all the dates I've been on in my lifetime, I think maybe 4 times, no, that's too much, twice, a guy has opened up a car door for me. It's not like a necessary thing, and it's not like a make or break, but it's just a nice little touch, you know, every once in a while. And I know it's hard because it's like you're trying to like rush to her side, like open up the passenger door. But like it still would be, you know, it's a nice gesture. Just putting that out there. Now we're on to step 2. This is if you're actually trying to get a girlfriend and not trying to like fuck around. These are the things that you should do when you're kind of in that beginning talking stage, kind of setting the ground rules, because there's nothing worse than miscommunication. So if you're actually trying to find a girlfriend and not just a fuck buddy, here are some tips. Set those intentions probably either before the first date if you had been talking for a little bit, or possibly soon after the first date. Kind of see the vibes, because there's a lot of kind of up in the air questions going on typically in our brains and possibly your little brains, where you're not quite sure if it's like a little, are we going on a date? Does that mean like this is just a date, or is this like a prequel to some time in bed? And so just kind of setting those intentions before anyone gets hurt is chef's kiss. Now, if she's on the same wavelength as you in terms of what page you're on and the intentions, she should ideally be open and honest with you about where she stands on the current relationship and like the trajectory of where that's going. Now, I don't know personally, but that's kind of what a good human being with good intentions in morals should be doing. But I know personally, in my experience, not a lot of guys have done that. And another big thing is don't like get pissed off and act like an asshole when you get quote unquote rejected, because it's not rejection. It's just not everyone is made for each other. So, and that's just a part of dating. You're kind of just sifting through everyone to kind of find that one person that really sticks out to you and really clicks with your vibe. So sometimes it just doesn't work out, and it's not the end of the world. You don't need to be an asshole about it. Also, don't ghost her. We're going to get, actually, I'm going to save that. That's a little bit later down. Step 3. If you actually like her and her personality and you can really see yourself being with her, here are some tips. If you're like, what are these feelings that I'm feeling? What are we doing? Do I actually like her? Like, I would die for her. You know, I would do anything that she would ask me to. Let her take control. Because if you're really, really liking her and her personality and not just her physical appearance and the idea of her, don't come on to her like a creep and pressure her into doing anything she doesn't want to do. Because, you know, sometimes we don't want to be mean, and sometimes we are a little scared to say no because, I mean, like, inherently men are just like physically stronger sometimes than us, and we're a little scared, and we like don't want to reject them because of how they, like, a guy might react. And that also could, you know, it's not for everyone, but if a girl has like previous trauma with that, like, that's just a scary thing. Just check out the body language. You know, you can tell a lot by a person's facial expressions and like the body language. And if you can kind of tell she's not really feeling it, check in. Just check the vibes. See what's going on. Make sure she feels comfortable and like safe. That's a huge thing. If her face and body language feels a little awkward, or it looks a little awkward or uncomfortable, just stop whatever you're doing. Okay? Ask her if she's okay. See what's going on. Make her feel safe. And if she doesn't want to talk about it, don't force her to talk about it. Just stop. Just stop. Simple as that. Again, if you are actually serious about dating this girl and you really want to be with her, I feel like it is in your best interest to not like do any kind of sexual interactions the first date, because you want to really get to know each other's personalities and your beliefs and just your hearts before you find out what's all going on underneath the clothes. Because I found that girls, personally, honestly, but typically girls will develop feelings more after sexual interactions rather than men, because we just inherently view that differently. Generally, this is a generalization, whereas like men typically develop feelings whenever there's actually that like connection, like the emotional connection rather than the physical connection. So that's why it's really important to not do anything on the first date and kind of just let that be that, because then you can really soak in how the conversation went and how that emotional connection felt. And it kind of like gives it this little edge for the next date. Like, you know, the emotional connection was really great. You guys were vibing. And then it's like, oh, well, now I really can't wait to see her again, because now it's like this build up, and it'll all be worth it. So just keep it tight, you know, stay tight. You have to like, again, build this trust with one another, because when you have that trust, it's easier to kind of set those boundaries in terms of just like everything, in terms of your intentions, in terms of like more intimate things. So setting those boundaries is easier whenever you trust one another. And by trusting one another, you need time to like build that emotional connection. Are we following? Are we still good here? Next, if you're on the date, and this is where setting those intentions pre-date kind of like comes in clutch. But if you're on the date and, deep down you're just like, man, I really want to get down and dirty. And I'm not sure if I can really commit, or like you think that you can commit and you just really want to get in there, do a little home run. If you've already established before the date that you're looking for more than just a hookup, build some self-control and don't do it. Because if you told her beforehand that you're really looking for a partner and not just like a hookup, hooking up on the first date's not going to like give off the impression that like you're wanting more than just physicality. Now, if you told her you want something more, but you change your mind, that's fine, but just don't go back on your word and just be intimate with her and then ghost her. That's a big no, no, no. Segue. Step 4, stop ghosting girls. That's not how you get a girlfriend. Because it's fine if at first you're like really attracted to this girl and you think that you like her and you want to get to know her, you're getting to know her and you're like, the vibes aren't vibing and you're not really enjoying it. And you're like, I'm not really feeling this. It is easier to ghost. It is, because you don't have to deal with it. However, it's one of the worst forms of like anything. It's a terrible thing to do. It's mean. It is on the same level as bullying in my head, because it forms this constant like, what did I do wrong? What happened, to the point where like he just stopped messaging me. It's just a shitty thing to do. And obviously that's not how you get a girlfriend, even if you're like not really vibing. It's just still a good thing. It's like still just like a good practice. It's good practice to not be an asshole. And if you are constantly ghosting girls, it's a shitty thing to do, and you're never going to get a girlfriend if you're going to be ghosting girls, because that's just my logic. I don't know if that's true, but that's just my logic, all right? Okay. Here's the thing. Here's the line that needs to be drawn. And this is also like a personal thing, I think. But generally, like, if you've gone on a date and it went pretty well, like it wasn't a terrible date, but post date you're like not really feeling it, and you're like, nothing against her personally, but I'm just like, I can't really see it going anywhere. If you've had a date and you had been talking for maybe like a week prior to it or however long, I think that it's just the polite thing to do to say, hey, I had a really great time, but I'm not sure if this is something I can see like long term. It was really great meeting you, and it has nothing to kind of, do with you. I've had a lot of fun. Or I don't know, that seems condescending. It's like, I had fun, but like, hey, I don't want to be with you. But you know what I mean? Kind of just like saying, you were really great, but I'm just not seeing this go anywhere further, and I don't want to waste either of our times. I only wish you the best. Short, sweet, to the point. Okay? That's all you got to do. Once you do that, you're going to it's going to be hard at first, but once you do it, you're going to be like, okay, this wasn't as bad. And if she is equally as mature about things, I don't know, it might hurt her feelings depending on, how emotionally stable she is. Now, if someone did that to me like 3 years ago, I'd kill myself. But now it's just, they're going to appreciate it in the long run. Maybe not in the moment, but later they're going to be like, okay, that was, I'd rather them just tell me now than either lead me on or ghost me. Now, if you've only been like talking, like texting over the phone or whatever, for like a few days, I feel like, I don't know, it's hard because it's like depends on like how much you're texting in a day, and like the length of the conversations and the depth of the conversations. It's all very like subject to change, because if you're just having like very surface level conversations for like 5 days and it's just like you're not really getting anywhere, like I understand like the ghosting part, But if you're having these lengthy, in-depth conversations about, your intentions and your beliefs and your opinion on things for like a week straight, and the conversations are very consistent, then I kind of feel like at that point, it's like, what did I do wrong? We were having these really great conversations, and now he just like stopped talking to me. So it's kind of like a personal, like it just depends on a lot of things. So use your best judgment. Really hone in that maturity and empathy, and you can decide. I'm putting the ball's now in your court. So that's my last step. After you've done all of that, I guess from here, it's at that point, you just kind of stay consistent, keep checking in with her in terms of your intentions for the said relationship. Keep going on dates. I honestly think communication is probably just the biggest thing. Like if you're not communicating about your feelings or your intentions, I think a lot can go wrong and can lead to you like not getting the girl. So as uncomfortable as it might seem, just like be open about how you feel. And then from there on, it's kind of just more of like if you have a good personality and like are nice. But I feel like you wouldn't get that far if you, weren't nice and didn't have a good personality. But I just mean, just be thoughtful to really keep her in there and listen to her and remember those like small details that she tells you, because those can go a long way whenever you remember things that she tells you. We really don't have that high expectations. It's just, I think guys have gotten away with doing so little for so long that it's like, now like you're requiring us to like remember the shit that you told us. Are you serious? So that's why it's like whenever a guy does something so minimal, we get so excited because, my God, you guys haven't done shit for so long. I don't know, some of you may have, but if you're here listening to this episode and you're taking advice from a complete stranger, I mean, there's something you must have been doing wrong. So take this advice also with a grain of salt. But once again, chew it up, swallow it, digest it, shit it out. And I wish you the best of luck. I'm rooting for you. Also, stop lying about your height. And I want to reiterate one more time. Don't put a group picture first on your profile. Stop it. Because it's going to piss us off, especially if all your friends are hotter than you. We're going to be a little disappointed. So yeah, wishing you the best of luck, King. And for all my ladies who are listening right now, I hope I, really honed in on what we really need in this world, which are better men and men who can really step up to the plate and really make this world a better place, because our backs hurt from carrying society. So that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you want, you can follow the pod on Instagram at Argue with the Wall, but the with is a W. You can, I don't know, go get a girlfriend and go stream How You Get the Girl by Taylor Swift. And then continue to listen to all of her music, specifically Taylor's version. Yeah, that's it. Love you guys. Thank you so much for listening, and I will chat with you next week.